Hey guys, how's it going? Alex Scott here with Consordini.com with another quick recording tutorial for you guys today. Now, one of the most common clients that I get, whether I'm doing mixing or production or whatever, are singer-songwriters who are recording their own vocals and acoustic guitar for their songs at home. And a lot of times I will be working with people who, again, they want me to play drums on their song or produce it or do some mixing or whatever. And I start, go to get started on working with some of the files that they've sent me, and I noticed that there are some basic mistakes being made in how they are recording the stuff that they're sending to me. So we've already done a video about how to record vocals very basically, or how to get set up to record your vocals. So today what I want to talk about is recording our acoustic guitar, all right? Now, this acoustic that I have here is the acoustic that I have for use in the studio. We've done a video review on it. This is a Yamaha FG335, or F335 rather, and it is a really, really awesome, incredibly inexpensive acoustic guitar. It's about 150 bucks, brand new, and it really just sounds great. I actually use this guitar for recording all the time, even on really, high-end productions. Great balanced even tone all the way across the instrument, holds tune, all kinds of stuff. So first recommendation right there, if you need an acoustic, check out the F335. But when you're looking at getting started recording your very first acoustic guitar, there's a few really basic things that you're going to need. Obviously, your guitar. You're going to need a decent quality studio microphone, which we also call a condenser microphone. Now, the one that I have here is called an Octava MK319. It's a bit of an unusual mic. It's an older microphone that's not in production anymore, but it's incredibly inexpensive on the secondhand market. I got this one for, I think, around $75 or $100, something like that. But which microphone you have isn't necessarily the thing, again, when you're very first starting out, isn't necessarily the thing that you are going to be most concerned about. You just want it to be a decent quality one, and a good indicator of that is seeing the word condenser in the description of the mic. Really great starter microphones that you can look at that are incredibly inexpensive. My favorite one is called the MXL 990. You can find it at Guitar Center. Usually, they go on sale for like $50 all the time. That's a great option. You'll also see what we call pencil condenser microphones, which are much smaller. They kind of look like a little stick or a little rod. That's another really, really great option. Again, the MXL 991 is a really great choice there. I also own a pair of Rode M5 microphones. We've done a review of those on the channel, and those are really, really fabulous sounding for acoustic guitar as well. But again, what brand it is or anything like that, don't concern yourself with a ton, as long as you're getting it from a reputable retailer. Read a couple reviews or whatever, make sure it's a decent quality microphone, and that it is a condenser, that it's designed for use in a recording studio. That's going to be your main concern. So second to your microphone, obviously we're going to need our cable, okay, our microphone cable. And just like we talked about in the vocal recording video, if your microphone does not use this type of cable, we call this an XLR cable, and as you can see, it has the 3 pins there in the end, or slots for 3 pins, and it clicks into the microphone just like, oh, got it backwards. It only goes in one direction, just like so, nice and snug, and it clicks in. That's a good indicator that you've got a good quality microphone on your hands. Now, after your cable, you're going to need your microphone stand. Okay, you don't even necessarily need a big fancy stand with a boom, as you can see with this one. Just lower it just a little bit more here. I just have a straight stand, and this will even work in a pinch. A boom stand can be a little bit better because you can get different angles, but when we get to actually positioning the guitar here in a second on the microphone, as long as you can get it to where it needs to be, you're going to be in pretty good shape. Okay, the next thing that you're going to need is a decent pair of headphones. And just like we talked about in the vocal recording video, you specifically want headphones that are closed back, okay? What does that mean? That means that they have a hard shell on the outside, and when you put them on, you guys can't hear because you're not inside my head, but they have really excellent isolation, okay? So they keep sound in that you're actually listening to through headphones, and then they also keep external sound out so you can really clearly hear what's being played back. So that way, if you're playing along to your, if you're playing along to like a drum beat or something like that, it stays in your headphones and doesn't get picked up nearly as much by the microphone itself, leading to problems later on when you're trying to mix, right? So decent pair of headphones. These are Tascam TH02s. I think they were $15 on Amazon. Again, they don't need to be expensive. The most important part is that they have this closed back design. Okay, and then obviously if you're watching this and getting into this, I'm going to assume that you guys already have some kind of audio interface that has a microphone plug on it so that you can plug it in and then you plug the interface into your computer. That's what's going to get you the actual sound in your recording software. Again, not really going to go into that a ton here because that's a bit of a different topic, but we'll just assume that you guys already have that. If you don't, definitely look around for a tutorial. I'm sure we'll do one here on the channel at some point about how to get set up with a basic interface, but we'll assume you already have that a bit figured out, okay? So we've got our headphones, we've got our guitar, we've got our mic, we've got our stand, we've got our cable, we've got everything plugged in, and we're ready to actually start recording. Well, one of the most critical parts of recording your acoustic guitar is where you place the microphone, okay? Now, I sometimes like to play like this, a little bit more classical style. Some guys, you know, will play a little bit more like this, more folk style. For the purposes of keeping everything nice and frame here, I'm just going to hold it like this, but do what's most comfortable for you. The most critical and kind of easiest, I wouldn't even say the most critical, but the easiest way to know that you're going to get a decent quality sound out of your microphone, you're going to put it 6 inches to a foot away from your guitar, anywhere in there, depending on how hard you're playing. And you're going to point it somewhere in between your 12th fret, okay, so the fret with the double dots, and where the body starts, okay? So right in this range is going to give you the best balance of the sound from the body, which is richer and deeper and has more low end, more bass frequencies, and then the sound from the resonation of the strings, which is going to give you more detail and top end, okay? So as you can see, I'm pretty much just have the microphone pointed right at this kind of 12th fret body joining position right here, okay? And that's going to give you the best tone overall. Some things I see guys doing, a lot of people will put it right over the sound hole, okay? We don't want to do that actually, because if you just listen to your instrument, when you're right over the sound hole, you'll notice that you have a lot more bass kind of low-end resonance, all right? And that may sound okay to your ear, but to a microphone doesn't work quite the same way that our ears do. If you have it pointed directly at the sound hole, you're going to get a ton of woofiness and low end that's just going to cause you problems later on. Alternatively, if you were to point the mic way up here, you know, you're only going to get this real thin, quiet sound of the brightness of the strings. You also don't really want that because you're going to lose a lot of the body of the guitar. So getting it right into this 12th fret to 14th fret range is really going to be your best bet. Again, if you do have a boom microphone stand, so a microphone stand with an extra arm that kind of tilts around and can extend out, that is a really good option. It's not totally required. I could make this work right here really easily, and straight stands like this one tend to be a little bit less expensive than boom stands. So if that's all you have, you know, maybe you'll have to sit up on a slightly higher stool or something. As long as you can get the mic 6 inches away-ish, pointed right at this area, you're going to be in good shape. If you do have a boom stand or can afford one, that's great. It will make your positioning a little bit more flexible. But the main thing is that you want the mic pointed in this area. You don't want it over the sound hole. You don't want it over the neck. You don't want it down here over the body because you're not going to get into definitions from the strings. The sweet spot is really right somewhere in this area here. So once you've got yourself set up to record, the last thing you're going to want to worry about is the gain on your preamp, okay? Now, again, assuming that you have a basic interface with a preamp built into it, you're usually just going to have a knob labeled gain, and you're going to be able to turn that up and down, and it's going to make your recorded signal quieter and louder, or the signal you're recording, rather. And the main thing you want to look out for there is you'll get set up, you'll get your microphone placed, and what you'll go ahead and do is watching the meter in the program, okay, the little series of lights or the bar that goes up and down with how loud and quiet it is. And you want to play as loud as you think you're going to play. Really give it a good solid strum. And watch that meter. If you see yellow or red, turn that knob down. And continue doing so little by little until you see it's got a good amount of signal, you know, a good amount of green. But it can touch the yellow a little bit. That's not a problem. What you really want to avoid is any red, okay? Red means that you're clipping or peaking, which means your signal is going to be distorted and sound really, really bad. So you want to avoid that at all costs. But you basically just want to get that preamp loud enough to where you see a good amount of signal. But again, just a little bit in the yellow is okay. If you ever see it hit red, you got to turn that baby down because it's going to clip and it's really not going to sound very good, okay? And that's really all there is to it. You know, it is not super complicated to get a decent acoustic recording. There are certainly a whole lot more complicated and advanced techniques, like using 2 microphones and using room microphones, and then you have to start worrying about phase coherence and all this kind of stuff. We can talk about that later on. But for right now, if you're just getting started recording acoustic, or you're a singer-songwriter, you've got some songs you want to get down, you know, this is a really easy way to get into doing it. Just using the 1 microphone, simple stand, headphones, get your microphone pointed right there, about 6 inches away. Make sure your gain's good. You're going to be in very good shape. Now, another final note that I want to touch on is people who sing and play at the same time, okay? This is a very tricky topic because I've met a lot of, you know, not even necessarily newer singer-songwriters, or but people with not a lot of like recording experience or experience performing or this kind of stuff, where it's very difficult for them to just play their guitar, and then very difficult to, like, separately from singing, basically, right? So it's difficult for them to just play the song but not sing it, and then sing the song but not play it. And if you find that this is the case for you, what I would recommend doing, you have a few different options. You can either move the microphone back a little bit, okay, and bring it up to a more even distance between your mouth. So if you draw an imaginary line from your mouth to the mic, it should be pretty much the same as the line you would draw from the microphone to that same spot on the guitar. So if you can kind of see how I'm proportionally arranged here, if I were to point the microphone down, it would be pointed right at this sweet spot on the guitar. And if I were to point it up, my mouth would be pointing directly at it. But I want to get it far enough away so that what the microphone is hearing in this big kind of imaginary circle in front of it includes both the guitar and my mouth, all right? That way it's going to pick up both. I apologize for the terrible singing and the sloppy guitar playing. I am not a singer-songwriter. I'm a recording engineer, but you get the point. That's an easy solution for that problem, to just get you going. However, I really do strongly recommend that you practice playing separately from singing, and you should be able to execute your songs that way in order to record them, because it makes mixing a whole lot easier if you just have a guitar track and then a vocal track, because you can treat them as separate items, and you can EQ the vocal really nicely to sound great and add reverb and all that stuff, and then you can make the acoustic guitar sound really, really nice on its own as well. If you have both in the same recording, it can be a little bit trickier, because if you start to EQ it so the vocal sounds nice, suddenly the guitar might not sound so nice, and vice versa, okay? And if you have a section of the song where you're playing guitar really hard and maybe you're not singing quite as loud, then you can end up with it being very difficult or impossible to make your voice louder than the guitar, because you're playing harder. And again, vice versa. If you're singing really loud but not strumming very hard, you might have the same problem in the other direction. So I would highly recommend practicing your songs as a whole performance, and then just vocally, and then just as the guitar, so that when it comes time for you to record the whole thing, you can do them separately and have that much more control over each element and get that much higher quality of a sound. But that's really it. That is the basics of recording your acoustic guitar at home. What tips and tricks do you guys have, though? How do you guys record your guitars? How do you guys do the singer-songwriter thing in your own recording setup? I'd love to hear what you guys have to say, or if you have any input on anything that you guys like to do, definitely leave any of that down in the comments below. We'd love to hear from you guys, so definitely join in the conversation there. Again, my name is Alex Scott with Consordini.com. I really hope this video has been helpful to some of you guys out there, and we'll see you next time. Thanks.